Deep in the heart of Saudi Arabia lies a valley that has terrified scientists, researchers, and locals for centuries. Cars move on their own without engines running. Stones fly through the air with no explanation. Electronic devices malfunction mysteriously. Compasses spin wildly, pointing in all directions. Even the most advanced scientific equipment fails to function properly in this place. This is Wadi Al-Jin, the Valley of the Jinn, where the boundaries between our world and the unseen realm become dangerously thin. For over 1,400 years, Islamic scholars have warned about this place. Local Bedouin tribes refuse to enter after sunset. Modern scientists who dare to investigate often leave with more questions than answers, and some never speak about what they witnessed there. But what makes this valley so terrifying? Why do cars move by themselves? And what ancient secrets lie hidden in the caves where the jinn are said to still gather today? The answers to these questions will shock you, because what happens in Wadi Al-Jin challenges everything we think we know about the physical world. From the time of Prophet Sulaiman, peace be upon him, who commanded the jinn, to the warnings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about these powerful beings, Islam has always taught us that the jinn exist in a realm parallel to ours. But in Wadi Al-Jin, that parallel realm appears to intersect with our own in ways that modern science cannot explain. Located approximately 200 kilometers north of Medina, this mysterious valley stretches for several kilometers through the rocky desert landscape. The name itself tells the story, for the local population has called it Wadi Al-Jin for generations, long before modern paranormal investigators arrived with their equipment. The Bedouin elders passed down stories from father to son, warning about the strange phenomena that occur here, especially during the night hours when the veil between worlds grows thinner. But this is not just folklore or ancient superstition. In recent decades, as Saudi Arabia has opened more to scientific research and international investigation, teams of geologists, physicists, and paranormal researchers have documented extraordinary events that defy conventional explanation. Video footage shows cars rolling uphill without any power source. Photographs capture strange lights hovering above the valley floor. Audio recordings pick up sounds that should not exist in this barren landscape. The most famous phenomenon reported in Wadi Al-Jin is the movement of vehicles without human control. Drivers report that when they turn off their engines and place their cars in neutral gear, the vehicles begin to move on their own, sometimes reaching speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour. This occurs even when the car appears to be moving uphill against the force of gravity. Local tour guides demonstrate this phenomenon to visitors, but they always warn against staying too long, especially as darkness approaches. Scientists have proposed various theories to explain these movements. Some suggest magnetic anomalies in the rocks beneath the valley floor create electromagnetic fields that affect metal objects. Others propose that optical illusions make what appears to be uphill movement actually downhill. But these explanations fail to account for the consistent reports from multiple witnesses, the precise measurements taken by research teams, and the fact that the phenomena occur predictably in specific locations within the valley. More disturbing are the reports of electronic equipment malfunctioning in ways that seem almost intelligent. Digital cameras stop working suddenly, then resume function when moved to different locations. GPS devices provide impossible readings, showing coordinates that place the user in locations hundreds of kilometers away. Satellite phones lose signal, even in areas with clear sky visibility. Radio equipment picks up transmissions in languages that sound ancient and unknown. Voices that seem to come from within the rocks themselves. Dr. Ahmad al-Rashid, a physicist from King Saud University, who led a research expedition to Wadi Al-Jin in 2015, documented temperature fluctuations that occurred in patterns too regular to be natural. His team recorded sudden drops of 15 degrees C in localized areas no larger than a few square meters, while the surrounding temperature remained constant. These cold spots moved across the valley floor in seemingly purposeful patterns, following paths that corresponded to the traditional routes that Bedouin guides claim are used by the Jinn, the electromagnetic readings taken by Dr. Al-Rashid's team revealed anomalies that challenged their understanding of physics. Instruments detected magnetic field variations that pulsed in rhythmic patterns, almost like a heartbeat. The frequency of these pulses matched certain brainwave patterns associated with altered states of consciousness, leading some researchers to speculate about the psychological effects of prolonged exposure to these fields. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of Wadi Al-Jin is not what science can measure, but what people experience on a personal level. Visitors consistently report feelings of being watched by unseen observers. Many describe hearing voices calling their names from empty areas of the valley. Some claim to see shadowy figures moving between the rocks, figures that disappear when approached or photographed. These experiences align perfectly with Islamic teachings about the Jinn, the beings created from smokeless fire who inhabit a realm parallel to our own. The Holy Quran mentions the Jinn in multiple verses, describing them as intelligent beings with free will, capable of belief and disbelief, good and evil actions. Unlike angels, who are created from light and always obey Allah, the Jinn possess the ability to choose their path just as humans do. In Surah Al-Jin, Allah the Almighty reveals that the Jinn listened to the Quran being recited and were moved by its truth. Some among them believed and submitted to Allah, while others rejected the message. This diversity among the Jinn means that not all of them are evil, but it also means that some have chosen the path of rebellion against Allah and His guidance. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us much about the Jinn through his authentic sayings preserved in the Hadith collections. He warned us that the Jinn can see us while we cannot see them in their natural state. They live in a world parallel to ours, sharing the same physical space, but existing in a different dimension of reality. They can take various forms, appearing as animals, humans, or other creatures when they choose to manifest in our world. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also informed us that the Jinn have cities, markets, and gathering places just as humans do. They organize themselves into tribes and communities. Some are righteous believers who worship Allah, while others follow Iblis, the first among them to rebel against Allah and become Satan. This rebellion occurred when Allah commanded all beings to prostrate before Adam, peace be upon him, and Iblis refused out of pride and arrogance. When we consider Wadi Al-Jin in light of these Islamic teachings, the strange phenomena begin to make more sense. If this valley serves as one of the traditional gathering places for the Jinn, then the intersection of their world with ours might naturally produce effects that our limited human senses and scientific instruments struggle to comprehend. The location of Wadi Al-Jin is also significant from an Islamic perspective. The valley lies in the Hijaz region, the same area where Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, received his mission and where the early Muslim community was established. This is the land where the Quran was first revealed, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, preached to both humans and jinn. It is entirely possible that this valley holds special importance in the history of Islamic revelation. The Quran tells us that when the jinn heard the Quran being recited, they said to their people, "O our people, indeed we have heard a book revealed after Musa, peace be upon him, confirming what was before it, which guides to the truth and to a straight path." This suggests that the jinn were actively listening to the Prophet's recitation and carrying the message back to their own communities. If Wadi Al-Jin was one of the places where such encounters occurred, where the jinn gathered to listen to the divine revelation, then it would make sense that the valley retains a special spiritual significance. The continued gathering of jinn in this location might explain why the phenomena persists to this day. 14 centuries after the Prophet's peace be upon him, local Bedouin traditions support this theory. Elder tribesmen tell stories passed down through generations about travelers who camped in the valley and heard the sound of recitation echoing from the rocks. They describe nights when the desert seemed to come alive with invisible congregations, when the air itself hummed with spiritual energy. These accounts predate modern scientific investigation by centuries, suggesting that the phenomena in Wadi Al-Jin are not new, but have been occurring for a very long time. The caves scattered throughout Wadi Al-Jin hold particular significance in local folklore. These natural formations in the rocky hillsides are said to serve as meeting halls for jinn councils, places where they gather to discuss matters affecting both their world and ours. Bedouin guides warn visitors never to enter these caves, especially during the hours between Maghrib and Fajr prayers, when the jinn are most active. Stories are told of explorers who ignored these warnings and entered the caves, only to emerge hours later in a state of confusion and terror. Some report having conversations with beings they could not see, discussions about events that had not yet occurred, but later came to pass exactly as described. Others claimed to have witnessed gatherings of translucent figures engaged in what appeared to be religious ceremonies, reciting verses in Arabic, but with voices that seemed to come from everywhere at once. One particularly disturbing account comes from a geological survey team that entered one of the larger caves in 1998 to study the rock formations. According to their report, they found evidence of habitation, including areas that appeared to have been shaped by intelligent design rather than natural erosion. The rock surfaces showed patterns that resembled Arabic calligraphy, but the letters were too large and too precise to have been carved by human hands. The team's equipment began malfunctioning as soon as they entered the deepest chamber of the cave. Their flashlights dimmed despite having fresh batteries. Their rock hammers became too hot to hold, though the cave temperature remained cool. Most disturbing of all, their voice recordings from inside the cave captured additional voices responding to their conversations, voices that none of the team members heard while they were speaking. When the recordings were analyzed later, linguistic experts identified the additional voices as speaking classical Arabic in dialect patterns that had not been used for over 1,000 years. The responses showed an understanding of the team's modern Arabic discussions, but the vocabulary and grammar structures belonged to a much earlier period of the language. This suggested that whoever or whatever was responding had learned Arabic during the early Islamic period and had not updated their linguistic knowledge since then. The content of these mysterious responses was even more intriguing. The voices seemed to be providing commentary on the team's presence, discussing whether humans should be allowed in the sacred gathering place. Some voices argued for tolerance, citing Quranic verses about the importance of knowledge and learning. Others expressed concern about the intrusion of modern technology into their traditional meeting space. Dr. Khaled Al-Otaibi, a linguist from the Islamic University of Medina who analyzed the recordings, noted that the invisible speakers demonstrated an intimate knowledge of Quranic commentary and hadith literature. Their discussions referenced scholarly debates from the early centuries of Islam, suggesting that these beings had been present during the formation of Islamic jurisprudence and theological thought. This raises profound questions about the relationship between the jinn and human religious development. If the jinn have been listening to Islamic teachings since the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and if they have their own scholars and religious authorities, then their gathering places like Wadi Al-Jin might serve as centers of spiritual learning for their communities. The timing of increased activity in Wadi Al-Jin also corresponds to significant dates in the Islamic calendar. Bedouin observers report that the phenomena become more intense during the holy months of Rajab, Shaban, and Ramadan. Vehicle movements become more frequent and more dramatic. Electronic equipment failures increase. The sounds of invisible congregations become audible even to human ears. During Ramadan, the month of fasting and spiritual reflection, multiple witnesses have reported seeing lights moving in procession through the valley during the night hours. These lights appear as glowing orbs that move in organized formations, following paths that lead to the cave entrances. The lights pulse with a rhythm that matches the cadence of Quranic recitation, suggesting that the jinn maintain their own spiritual observances parallel to human religious practices. Some Islamic scholars who have studied the Wadi Al-Jin phenomena propose that the valley serves as a kind of spiritual portal, a place where the barrier between the seen and unseen worlds is naturally thinner. They point to verses in the Quran that describe how Allah created multiple levels of existence, each with its own laws and characteristics. At certain locations and times, these levels of existence might overlap, allowing beings from different realms to interact more directly. This theory gains support from the accounts of people who claim to have received guidance or warnings through their experiences in Wadi Al-Jin. Several documented cases involve travelers who were lost in the desert and found their vehicles mysteriously directed toward safety. Others describe receiving warnings about dangers they had not yet encountered, warnings that later proved accurate and potentially life-saving. One particularly remarkable account comes from a Saudi businessman who became stranded in the valley when his vehicle broke down during a sandstorm in 2012. As he waited for rescue, he heard a voice speaking in clear Arabic, providing detailed directions to a water source and shelter. Following these instructions, he found a small oasis hidden between the rocks, a place that did not appear on any maps, but provided the water and shade he needed to survive until help arrived. When search teams later examined the area, they confirmed the existence of the oasis, but noted that its location made no geological sense. The water source appeared to be fed by an underground spring, but drilling in the surrounding area found no evidence of an aquifer. The vegetation around the oasis included plant species that should not have been able to survive in the harsh desert climate. Yet they appeared healthy and well established. Such accounts raise questions about the nature of assistance that righteous jinn might provide to humans in distress. Islamic teachings tell us that not all jinn are evil, and that believing jinn are rewarded by Allah just as believing humans are. If righteous jinn inhabit Wadi Al-Jin, they might indeed offer help to travelers, especially those who remember Allah and recite His verses. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us specific prayers for protection when traveling, including seeking refuge in Allah from the evil of what He has created. These supplications acknowledge the existence of unseen forces while placing trust in Allah's protection. Travelers who report positive experiences in Wadi Al-Jin often mention that they were careful to maintain their prayers and remembrance of Allah during their time in the valley. However, Islamic teachings also warn us about the dangers of seeking contact with jinn or trying to communicate with them deliberately. The Prophet, peace be upon him, forbade such practices, knowing that humans lack the knowledge and spiritual protection needed to distinguish between righteous and evil jinn. Those who attempt to establish communication with jinn often find themselves deceived by evil beings who pose as helpful spirits, but ultimately lead people away from the straight path. This Warning becomes particularly relevant when considering the modern interest in Wadi Al-Jin as a destination for paranormal investigation. Some visitors come to the valley specifically hoping to encounter jinn, bringing equipment designed to capture evidence of supernatural activity. Such approaches ignore the Islamic guidance about these matters and can potentially expose people to spiritual dangers they do not understand. Evil jinn are masters of deception, capable of appearing in pleasing forms and offering attractive promises. They can provide information that seems helpful or prophetic, but their ultimate goal is to lead humans into shirk, the worship of anything other than Allah. They might encourage people to believe that the jinn themselves possess independent power, rather than understanding that all power belongs to Allah alone. The caves of Wadi Al-Jin have unfortunately attracted some individuals seeking to practice magic or sorcery, believing that the presence of jinn in the area will enhance their abilities. Such practices are strictly forbidden in Islam and are considered among the gravest sins. The Prophet, peace be upon him, warned that magic and sorcery involve forming partnerships with evil jinn, requiring the practitioner to commit acts of disbelief and rebellion against Allah. Those who engage in such practices in Wadi Al-Jin often report immediate negative consequences. Their vehicles break down in dangerous locations. They become lost despite having GPS equipment. Some experience psychological disturbances that persist long after leaving the valley. These effects serve as warnings against attempting to manipulate or control forces that humans were never meant to command. The correct Islamic approach to understanding Wadi Al-Jin is to recognize it as one of Allah's signs, a place where His creation demonstrates realities beyond normal human perception. Just as Allah created the seven heavens and the earth with signs for those who reflect, He has also created places where the existence of the unseen world becomes apparent to those who observe with faith and wisdom. Scientific investigation of Wadi Al-Jin can be valuable when conducted with proper understanding and respect. Research that seeks to understand the natural phenomena occurring in the valley without attempting to exploit or control supernatural forces can increase our appreciation for the complexity and wonder of Allah's creation. Such studies might reveal new aspects of physics or geology that expand human knowledge, while maintaining appropriate humility before the mysteries that remain beyond our comprehension. Dr. Sarah Al-Mansouri, a geophysicist who has conducted extensive research in Wadi Al-Jin, emphasizes the importance of approaching the valley with respect for local traditions and Islamic teachings. Her team follows protocols that include seeking permission from local tribal leaders, avoiding the caves during nighttime hours, and maintaining regular prayers throughout their research activities. Dr. Al-Mansouri's findings suggest that the geological composition of Wadi Al-Jin includes unusual mineral deposits that could contribute to the electromagnetic anomalies observed in the area. However, she acknowledges that these natural factors alone cannot explain all the phenomena reported by visitors. Her research has documented correlations between increased electromagnetic activity and the Islamic lunar calendar, patterns that suggest influences beyond simple geological processes. The mineral analysis of rock samples from Wadi Al-Jin reveals high concentrations of magnetite and other ferromagnetic materials, which could potentially affect compass readings and electronic equipment. However, the distribution of these minerals does not match the locations where the strongest phenomena occur. Some of the most active areas show relatively normal mineral composition, while areas with high magnetic content sometimes show no unusual activity at all. This disconnect between natural explanations and observed phenomena has led some researchers to propose that Wadi Al-Jin represents a case where multiple factors, both seen and unseen, interact to produce effects that cannot be understood through purely materialistic approaches. The valley might serve as a natural laboratory where the limitations of secular scientific methodology become apparent, pointing toward the need for broader frameworks that acknowledge spiritual realities. The impact of Wadi Al-Jin on visitors often extends far beyond the immediate experience of witnessing unusual phenomena. Many people report that their time in the valley leads to increased spiritual awareness and commitment to Islamic practices. The encounter with unexplained forces serves as a reminder of the limits of human knowledge and the reality of Allah's power over all. Educational groups from Islamic universities have begun organizing structured visits to Wadi Al-Jin as part of courses on Islamic cosmology and the nature of creation. These programs combine scientific observation with Quranic study, helping students understand how the revealed knowledge of Islam provides context for interpreting extraordinary phenomena. The valley serves as a practical demonstration of verses that describe the existence of multiple realms of creation and the presence of beings beyond human perception. However, such educational visits require careful planning and experienced guides who understand both the scientific aspects of the valley and the Islamic principles that should govern human interaction with unseen forces. Students are taught proper etiquette for visiting such places, including the recitation of protective prayers, the importance of maintaining wudu and regular prayers, and the need to approach the experience with humility and respect. The documentation of experiences in Wadi Al-Jin has also contributed to Islamic scholarship on the nature of jinn and their relationship with humans. Contemporary scholars use reports from the valley to illustrate classical teachings about these beings, showing how ancient wisdom remains relevant to modern experiences. The phenomena serve as evidence supporting Quranic descriptions of unseen realms and the complex nature of Allah's creation. Sheikh Abdullah Al-Ghamdi, a respected scholar from the Islamic University of Medina, has written extensively about Wadi Al-Jin in the context of Islamic teachings on the unseen world. He emphasizes that while the phenomena in the valley are remarkable, they should not be viewed as supernatural in the sense of being beyond Allah's natural order. Rather, they represent aspects of creation that humans normally cannot perceive, but which become apparent under certain conditions. Sheikh Al-Ghamdi's analysis focuses on the importance of maintaining proper Islamic beliefs when encountering such phenomena. He warns against attributing independent power to the jinn or treating them as objects of worship or fear. All power belongs to Allah alone, and both humans and jinn are subject to His will and decree. The unusual activity in Wadi Al-Jin should increase our awe and reverence for Allah, not our fascination with the created beings who inhabit the valley. The Sheikh also addresses common misconceptions about jinn that have developed in popular culture. Movies and television shows often portray jinn as beings who grant wishes or possess unlimited power, images that contradict Islamic teachings. The Quran and Hadith describe jinn as created beings with limitations, needs, and responsibilities. Just like humans, they are not magical genies who serve human desires, but independent beings with their own purposes and accountabilities before Allah. This understanding becomes particularly important when interpreting the vehicle, movements, and other phenomena in Wadi Al-Jin. Rather than viewing these events as displays of jinn power, they might better be understood as side effects of increased spiritual activity in the area. When large numbers of jinn gather for worship or study, their presence might naturally affect the physical environment in ways that human senses can detect. The electromagnetic disturbances recorded in the valley could result from the energy generated by spiritual activities rather than deliberate manipulation of matter by jinn. Just as human religious gatherings create observable effects through collective recitation and prayer, jinn congregations might produce similar but more intense results due to their different nature and composition. This interpretation aligns with reports that the phenomena in Wadi Al-Jin become more intense during times of Islamic significance, such as the holy months and particularly blessed nights like Laylat al-Qadr. If the jinn maintain their own religious calendar and increase their spiritual activities during these periods, the resulting effects on the physical environment would naturally intensify as well. The caves of Wadi Al-Jin take on special significance in this context. Rather than being mere shelters or hiding places, they might serve as dedicated spaces for jinn worship and education. Similar to how humans use mosques and schools, the acoustic properties of these caves could enhance the recitation of Quran and religious instruction, making them natural choices for spiritual gatherings. Archaeological investigation of the caves has revealed features that support this theory. The walls show evidence of deliberate shaping and acoustic engineering that goes beyond natural erosion patterns. Sound tests demonstrate that voices spoken in certain locations within the caves are amplified and clarified in ways that would enhance group recitation. The layout of the larger caves includes areas that could function as prayer spaces, with orientations that face toward Mecca. However, researchers emphasize that these cave modifications appear to be very old, possibly dating back centuries or even millennia. The techniques used to shape the rock surfaces are not consistent with any known human methods, leading to speculation that the jinn themselves modified these spaces for their religious purposes over long periods of time. The antiquity of these modifications suggests that Wadi Al-Jin has served as a center of jinn religious activity since ancient times, possibly since the early centuries of Islam, when the jinn first heard the Quran and began converting to the new faith. The continued use of these spaces into the modern era indicates the stability and importance of this location in jinn society. Modern surveillance equipment installed in some of the caves has recorded activity during hours when no humans are present. Infrared cameras detect heat signatures moving through the caves in organized patterns. Audio equipment picks up sounds of recitation and discussion in classical Arabic. Most remarkably, air quality monitors show changes in oxygen and carbon dioxide levels that indicate the presence of breathing beings. Even though no visible creatures are detected, these recordings provide scientific evidence for ongoing jinn activity in the caves. But they also raise ethical questions about human surveillance of jinn religious practices. Some Islamic scholars argue that monitoring jinn worship without their consent violates principles of privacy and respect that should govern relationships between different communities of Allah's creation. Dr. Ahmed Al-Harbi, a researcher in Islamic ethics, has proposed guidelines for scientific investigation of locations like Wadi Al-Jin. He suggests that research should focus on understanding natural phenomena rather than documenting the private activities of jinn communities. Studies should be conducted openly and with respect for both human and jinn rights, acknowledging that both groups have legitimate claims to use and inhabit these spaces. These ethical considerations become particularly important as interest in Wadi Al-Jin continues to grow. Tourism to the valley has increased significantly in recent years, bringing visitors who may not understand or respect the spiritual significance of the location. Some tourists treat the valley as an entertainment destination, seeking thrills from supernatural encounters without regard for the sacred nature of the activities occurring there. Local authorities have implemented regulations to manage tourism in Wadi Al-Jin, including restrictions on nighttime access and requirements for licensed guides. These measures aim to protect both human visitors and the jinn communities that use the valley, while still allowing appropriate research and education to continue. The experience of Wadi Al-Jin ultimately serves as a powerful reminder of the complexity and wonder of Allah's creation. In our modern world, where materialistic philosophies often deny the existence of anything beyond physical matter, places like this valley provide tangible evidence that reality includes dimensions and beings beyond normal human perception. For Muslims, Wadi Al-Jin confirms the truth of Quranic teachings about the unseen world and the existence of jinn. The phenomena in the valley demonstrate that faith in these teachings is not mere superstition, but recognition of actual realities that science is only beginning to acknowledge. The valley stands as a sign for those who reflect, pointing toward the greater mysteries of creation that await discovery. By those who approach them with proper knowledge and understanding, the lessons of Wadi Al-Jin extend beyond the valley itself to broader questions about how humans should relate to the unseen aspects of creation. Islamic teachings provide guidance for these relationships, emphasizing respect, humility, and reliance on Allah's protection. As we continue to explore and study places like Wadi Al-Jin, we must maintain these principles while remaining open to the signs and wonders that Allah has placed throughout His creation. The caves where jinns still gather remind us that we share this world with other communities of intelligent beings, creatures who worship Allah and seek knowledge just as we do. This recognition should increase our sense of responsibility as stewards of the earth and our appreciation for the diversity and richness of the creation that Allah has entrusted to our Yadat. The story of Wadi Al-Jin continues to unfold as researchers, scholars, and visitors contribute new observations and insights to our understanding of this remarkable place. Each discovery adds to the growing body of evidence that supports Islamic teachings about the nature of reality and the existence of worlds beyond our normal perception. Scientists still fear to enter the deepest caves of Wadi Al-Jin, not because of primitive superstition, but because they recognize that they are approaching mysteries that challenge the very foundations of their understanding. In these caves where jinn still gather, the boundaries between the seen and unseen worlds remain thin, offering glimpses into realities that remind us of the infinite wisdom and power of Allah, who created all things in perfect measure and balance.